Welcome to part 4 of making this needle felted cat. This part we're going to add all the details, so this is where it's really going to come to life. First thing I'm adding is white roving. I'm going to add this onto the muzzle and I'm going to make sure it's fairly smooth, not super fuzzy, because this portion of the cat hair would be very short. But I am trying to have it so that the fibers are aligned in the same direction that the cat's hair would grow, which is basically from the center of the face outward. And the same on the chin. Next, I'm going to put some of this orangey color wool bat onto the smoother parts of the face where the fur is really short, so on the nose and the cheeks. This exact wool is no longer available. The seller that I got it from the shop seems to have been closed down. So I'm recommending the gingerbread color in place of this. If you don't want to use the gingerbread color, I would just recommend using one of the medium orange tones of roving and just laying it on the same way that I laid the white wool roving on the muzzle. You could easily, instead of wool bat right here, you could easily use the roving. And I'm just taking that same wool and marking out the stripe from the tear duct of the eye down into the fur on the muzzle and cheeks. And I think actually I end up going over this with a darker color, like the same dark orange that I use for the stripes, but for now I'm just using all of that other color to start to visualize how I want the pattern to be. And I just took a piece of chocolate colored wool bat, sort of spun it in my fingers a little to make it just in a longer sort of, not yarn, but a longer shape that makes it easy to go around the eye. This is going to outline the shape of the eye. So I started in the tear duct and I'm just working around the eye, and I'm tucking this now right in the corner again, but I'm going to tuck this wool bat just all around the edge of the glass cabochon on the lower part of the eye, and on the upper part I'm just attaching it to the brow and upper eyelid. And then you'll just repeat the process on the other eye. This is the flesh-colored wool bat, like what was in the ears. And I just folded this over and placed it where the nose is supposed to be and started tucking it around in the shape of a triangle, just felting it into the face in a triangle shape. And I am kind of making sure that where the nostrils should be, that the wool is kind of tucked in right there. Well, I'll work on it more as I add color to it. There's a little stripe that goes right down the center of the nose on just the lower portion, like the lower half of the nose has that center stripe. So I'm using the black needle, that 36T needle, to really push in there and create an indent where the nostril is. And even along the outer edge of the nose, on that top portion, it should have an indent. So there's the actual nostril part, and then along that outer edge of the nose right here, it should also be indented. The color of wool that I'm putting on right here, I end up covering with a lighter shade. So I'm not even recommending really purchasing this color of wool, just because it's not a color that I end up using on the cat. I mean, it's here, so I'm showing the step where it's on there, so in case you're wondering like where that color came from, this is where I add it, but you don't need this color because I do end up covering it with the pale orange color that is used in the rest of his coat. Now I'm going to take a really thin piece of the chocolate wool bat. I'm going to get it attached right under the nose, then I'm going to pull on it gently and felt it all the way down to where the mouth starts. Then gently pull again, hold it along the line of the mouth, and just felt it in place. And as you sort of pull on it, it stretches and it lets you get a really thin line. So again, I'm getting attached in place, then I'm going to pull it, and then I'll felt it in place. I'm going to use that same chocolate wool bat to create the shadow of the nostril. Just put a tiny little piece and put it right in the divot that I had carved out. You want to kind of create a T shape in the nose. So now I'll put this on the other side, and you'll start to see that sort of a T shape in the pink color of the nose. Then I'm going to work on sort of defining this edge right here of the nose where there's an indent. It goes basically from the nostril to the edge of the pink part of the nose. In this next part, I'm going to start inserting the wool roving for the fur, where the fur actually, sticks out. And I'm going to do this, I believe, 4 times, just on the center stripe on the head. The center stripe is actually made up of 3 thin stripes of the dark color. So what I first did was just start laying down the darkest color, and then I put the lighter color on the edges. Now, if you don't want to watch this 4 times, you can just fast forward 5 minutes ahead. But basically, I saw that color and was like, nope, that's not gonna work. With how firmly felted this is, it actually was really tough to pull out. So that was kind of encouraging. So in this one, I used a really yellow color, and I really didn't like that color at all. But I did like the way I laid the color down. So first I put a thin layer of the dark, and then a thin layer of the light color, and then a very thin layer of the dark again, and just felted right down the center line, which then gave me 3 thin stripes, which was exactly what I was going for. So in that respect, it was a success, but I do pull this out because I, again, don't like this. I don't like this color combination. It's not what I was going for. So I used a fine point Sharpie just to mark out where the next parts of the cat's pattern will be. And you can either use my pattern or you can just look at images of tabby cats. They traditionally have sort of an M shape. So those two sides that I have marked in black, if you look at just the front portion, it kind of makes an imaginary M. And the patterns are a little bit different on different cats. So there's a lot of room for variation in how you want to make your cat. Again, I am going to rip all this out. I'm not happy with this color combination, but I am happy actually with the way the striping came out. So again, layering it in the center like that allowed that center line to actually be made of 3 thin lines. That came out really well. And then the 2 side lines are a little bit thicker, which is how it should be. That's all, fine and great. This gave me, I guess, a little more practice with putting in all this fur and trimming it. But I'm happy with the pattern, but not with the color. So all that's going to come out yet again. I actually have a lot of different shades of orange. I'm going to only recommend just a handful for you to use because it's kind of overwhelming. And I'm going to try and just recommend based on the ones that I used in this final rendition. So I'm still layering it the same way that I did in the other attempts. I'm putting a thin layer of the dark, and then I'm going to put a thin layer of the medium color, and then a thin layer of the dark on top of that. And then I'm just going to attach it the same way that I did in the other attempts. I'm going to lightly get a center line marked out, and then once I have it sort of tacked in place, I will felt the roving pretty deep into the head to make sure that it's really secure. And once it's really felted in there, I'll continue on, and of course the final look is achieved by trimming it, and then you'll see the color pattern revealed more clearly. So I'm going to again fill in the area all the way up to the Sharpie mark with the medium orange color. I'm actually going to make a light orange color by mixing the medium color with my white roving, and this will give me a light orange color. I'm going to try and recommend in the description a color match for this. So I'm working with an Etsy seller to see if I can just recommend a color that's already that color so that you don't have to mix it. But anyway, I am using a light, more pale orange color on the front part of the facial markings right above the eyes. And then as I go back further, I'm just using the medium orange color. And again, I'm inserting this all the way up to the line that I drew with the Sharpie, which will be my dark orange color. This portion is time-lapse, just kind of speeding this along. But again, I'm just filling in with the dark stripes and the medium stripes and making both sides match. I'm gonna go back to not time-lapse and show you what I'm doing with some of the stripes right here. I'm actually mixing a couple shades of the darker orange color and using those, but you don't have to do that by any means. It's just, there's going to be slight variation in the orange coloring of any sort of a tabby, a red tabby or ginger tabby. So this would be totally up to you on whether you want to, create sort of a blending or just go with the all the way dark one would work, or even the medium one. And this is that light orange color that I made. Again, I'm making some more of it here, just blending the medium with the white color so that I get that light orange. And this is the color that I'm going to use in the tabby markings just above the eyes. Some more of the light orange right here. And then I'll use the dark color again. Going back to time-lapse here just to speed things along. But again, I'm just filling in the pattern that I drew with the Sharpie, alternating between medium orange and dark orange. And then in the area that's closer to the eyes, alternating between the dark orange and the light orange color. And in case you can't tell for sure, that shape that I'm filling in is a triangle shape. So the outer marking, the last dark marking over the eyes, is a triangle. This is just the medium color, the medium orange that I'm filling in on both sides. Now I'm going to use my needle just to sort of comb back all of this wool so that it's laying in the right direction, so that when I go to trim it, I'll get a clean, accurate look at how the pattern is turning out. And the hair will look like it's growing in the right direction. And this trimming process, I just would recommend taking your time on it. Again, this is sped up, but just really take your time because you can trim just little bits at a time and get it just how you want it. But if you trim too much, then you kind of have to start over. So you want to keep in mind the overall shape of the cat's head so that you don't change that shape. And this is actually going to be trimmed pretty short because this is a short-haired cat, and the length that the length of fur that is added on the top of the head and forehead is pretty minimal. If you're making a long-haired cat, even still, this portion of the cat isn't going to be super long, maybe a little longer than on a short-haired cat, but most of the length that you'll see will be on the sides of the face. So again, I just take my time and really keep trimming this more and more. And you'll have the freedom to slightly adjust the way that the pattern is showing up. Like there's a couple lines on here that are showing up a little thicker than I would like. So in addition to the way that you trim it, you can also use the needle to sort of redirect the way the wool is leaning or inserted into the head, and you can kind of slightly adjust the way the stripes go. This tool isn't absolutely necessary. You could use anything else. You could even just use the needle and just take your time and kind of brush over. All I'm trying to do is get the fibers all lined in the same direction and brush off any of the clipped fibers. Here I'm going to use the needle just to direct that stripe a little more, and even the middle stripe I kind of wanted to, I felt like it was leaning a little bit toward the other side too much, so I was just kind of tucking it a little more. I'm just doing more fine tuning of the way the pattern shows up on the head. And I apologize that some of this has been off the camera, but basically all I'm doing is pushing the fibers in the direction that I want them to go and then pressing them in. So it's just kind of like tipping it and then anchoring it and tipping it and anchoring it. More trimming. So I continue adding some of the light orange color along the edge of the eyes, and then I'm using the medium orange color, which is a little bit different than the color that I had laid down of the wool bat, and I just put that at the top of his nose. This on the sides of the face is, or the sides of the head right there, on both sides is just the medium orange color. This is the white roving, and I'm gonna insert some right at the start of the ear, like right where that flesh tone wool bat was. I'm gonna insert some of this white roving so that it sort of stands up like white hair on the inside of the ear. And then I'm gonna continue to do that all along that inner edge of the ear so that it has white hair on the inside of the ear. And here I'm just trimming away some of that medium orange hair so that the white is more visible. I decided to lay a little bit of the very light colored orange on top of this portion, just to sort of have it fade, so it's kind of in between the light orange and the medium orange. And then I'm just going to repeat the entire process on the other side. This color that I lay down above the eye right now is the very light orange color, but I will add some details of the brighter white color towards the inner portion of the eye right there, kind of along the bridge of the nose. But for now I'm just putting that light pale orange color. And this part can kind of almost make the eyelashes part, so I was letting the fibers sort of point downward over the eye a bit. And again, I'm just repeating the same thing on the other eye with the very pale orange color. Here I'm adding a little bit of the medium orange color on top of the stripe that I have right here, and I'm extending the stripe down just a little bit so that it's closer to the eye. And I do a lot of this where I'm basically using the needle to brush the fibers and then kind of reattach them and brush and reattach just till they stand the way that I would like them to be. This is the white roving, and I'm putting it on this inner portion of the eye to create some more contrast in the pattern of the tabby markings right here. So along the nose and just above the eye, I wanted that bright white. Here I'm going to use the Sharpie again and mark out the sides of the face, the tabby pattern that is on the side. So from the corner of the eye, it sort of curves downward. And then there's a second pattern, a second stripe. You can kind of see that. And you can look at, different images of cats online and make the stripes how you want. Look at the side and the front. All that I'm doing right now is just putting that medium orange color in this upper portion, all the way up to the corner of the eye on the top. The final piece, instead of making it tacked down along a center line, I actually tack it down all the way to the corner of the eye. Here I'm taking some of the very light orange color and just kind of adding a little bit to the upper portion of the nose right here, where the pattern starts to go up into the stripes, the tabby stripes. And then I realized I actually probably didn't need to do that. I probably could have just reverse felted and pulled some of the natural color core wool back through. But anyway, that's what I'm doing right here. I'm just adding little bits of that to kind of have a speckly look in the orange so that it's not just a solid orange right there. And this is the medium orange again. So now I'm going below the second stripe that I have marked out, and I'm adding medium orange. Now I'm just adding the dark orange color along the stripes that I have drawn out. And I'll start from the back and move towards the front of the face. And as I get to the corner of the eye, I'm just going to tuck in all of the ends of the fibers so that it's really smooth right there near the eye. This is the medium orange color. And the dark orange color for the second stripe. And for the rest of this area that I'm filling in right here on the cheek, between those two stripes, I'm going to use that light orange, the pale orange. So I'm just going to continue to fill in the stripes with the dark orange color, and then the area in between the two stripes is going to be the light orange, the pale orange. And this last little bit of the dark orange, I'm going to go ahead and tuck all the ends in as it is up near the muzzle where the fur is very short. This is just more of the light pale orange color. And again, to create a smooth transition between the really short fur on the cat's face and the longer fur towards the cheeks, I'm going to go ahead and lay a piece of robing on that I tuck in all of the ends that are right there on that cheekbone. And I'm also going to lay on top of that some of the medium orange robing, just sort of let it lay across and blend into the lighter colored pale orange. This is the white roving, and I'm going to use this to create the shape of the white that he has underneath his eye. It's going to be a little bit wider, closer to the tear duct, and then it's going to be narrower in the middle part of the eye, and then it'll be a little bit wide again as it reaches the outer corner of the eye. Here I'm just going to extend the white part of the pattern that is around the eye along the edge of the nose. Just tidying up any fuzzies that don't seem to be attached well. And then I'm just repeating the same thing for the other eye, extending that white part of the pattern. And I'm just putting some of that medium orange color robing on top on this side so that it matches the other side. In this time-lapse portion, I'm just going to add the white along the underneath of the eye, and I'm going to try and put the rest of the roving in on this side of the cat to match what I did on the other side. Right here I am covering up that bright yellow color that I told you I end up covering up, and what I'm using is just the very pale orange color. There I took the dark orange and I'm covering that tear duct stripe with the dark orange. So again, that's just the dark orange roving, and I'm just covering that stripe that I had made earlier with this darker roving. I'm also going to lay a thin layer that makes a little stripe right under the white, but it doesn't have to be real complete. It doesn't go, it's kind of, these are like faded markings right here. They're not super dark, but it makes a little bit of a V shape. I'm also going to add some of the dark roving on the lower part of the nose, and it will go all the way to the nostril. So this is the dark orange color. There's like a slight staggering in this line. It does not line up perfectly with the tear duct line. This line that goes to the tip of the nose is a little bit more inward than that tear duct line, and they don't quite connect. So there's like a shading that's from the nostril upward, and then just outside of that there's shading that goes up to the tear duct, but they don't quite connect. That's some of the medium orange. I'm just kind of blending it a little bit around where the dark orange stripe comes up into the face. I'm bringing a little bit more of the orangey color down the muzzle. This is the white roving, and I'm kind of laying it across, again, that area where the light orange is, just to blend it more. I just felt like there was a harsh line right there. I'm still not totally happy with this part, so I'm adding a little bit more of the medium orange right along where that crease is, where there's that teardrop shape to the muzzle, where there's a crease between the muzzle itself and the cheekbone. Just kind of overlaying that with the medium orange. I'm going to take the medium orange and add some more right below the lowest red stripe. Start building this up a little bit more. Now I'm taking the pale orange color and adding a layer above that. So this is where I'm at so far. Obviously he's a lot more scruffy looking than Firestar should be. just adding a little bit more of those two little lines that are on the cheekbone. There's a real thin line right under the white, and then another thin line kind of in between that line and the dark line that's below. So I'm just giving that a little more definition. Those little bits of red stripe right there on the cheeks. Now I'm going to tuck the chin a little bit. I felt like maybe it was a little too puffy right there, so I'm just tightening that wool up. So I'm adding just a little bit more of the pale orange color, and then I'm going to make sure that the size he is going to fit inside this shadow box frame that I have. And then we'll move on to the finishing touches in part 5 of this tutorial.